you feel like you still feel like this, or people are saying to
I
you
feel like people
will think that.
will think that.
Hi, everyone. It's me, Dr. Tosh, and we have another episode of the Operation Heal series all about the Black woman's mind. And I'm really excited because one of my new friends who I've had the opportunity of talking with on social media for a while now is here, and she's going to share her journey. And her name is Monique Sanders. And so we're going to talk about your journey, Monique, and healing, and we're going to talk about your son and how you continue to grieve and work towards healing in his memory. Okay?
Yes.
So why don't we start? First of all, take a deep breath. Because I can tell. Take a deep breath. Okay? And I'm going to model this. Let me tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to model this for people who are going to watch it, et cetera, to know that this can sometimes be a space where it can be really emotional, right? You're talking about losing a loved one. So it is no easy time to talk about that. Sometimes are easier than others, but I want you to know it's okay in this space to feel what you're feeling and to have those emotions. It really is a safe space for that. So I just want you to, I want to start by, by telling you that.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
So let's talk a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what you do and all that good stuff first.
Well, I'm from Monique Sanders. I'm from Baltimore, Maryland. I'm a social worker, a mother, a friend, a sister, an advocate.
Mm-hmm. So you are a social worker. So you've seen some things.
Yes.
Right? And professionally, you've had to sit in front of people when they are sometimes at their most vulnerable.
Yes.
Okay. So let's talk about something that is undoubtedly vulnerable for you, which is loss that you've experienced.
Yes. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. It's hard, right?
Yes. I don't know.
Absolutely. Tell me, you have unfortunately experienced something that I think so many mothers dread.
Yes.
And that's losing a child.
Yes.
And I
Not
think
only
for
a
any
child,
adult,
but my grandmother
Wow.
and my aunt and 10 months.
Wow.
Yes.
So talk to me about what loss has been like for you.
Loss has given me strength, given me weakness, a lot of vulnerability, loneliness, and I'm such like an outgoing person. But I won't say that I mask, but when I'm out, I feel like I'm being my genuine self.
Right.
But when I'm in the comfort of my own home, that looks different.
Yeah. Because you're with your own thoughts.
Right. So I try to stay busy because I am with my own thoughts. And that is the fear that I sit with a lot of staying busy so I don't have to sit in my own stuff.
Do you feel like when sitting in your stuff, it forces you to acknowledge that loved ones are gone?
Yes, that's like when the reality really hits. Like when you walk around, like I moved, I purchased a home. I'm like, oh, this supposed to be living room. Shane's supposed to be in this room, and it just feels different sometimes.
Yeah. You just said something that it's a theme coming off this sofa, and several people have talked about this, which is how it was supposed to go, right?
Right.
No matter what that is, and no matter who the person is that you've lost, when there's a plan and it's not going how it was supposed to go, sometimes it's hard to celebrate what you've accomplished because you're missing them.
Right, and my friends tell me that a lot, Dr. Tosh. They say we don't know how you have accomplished the things that you have accomplished. But for me, it really doesn't feel like accomplishment. It just feels like I'm trying to find my own sense of normalcy and just keep going. So with even being accepted into the master's program, I didn't
Congratulations.
know. Thank you. So I graduated in 2020, but my son died in 2017 October, and I was starting the program
Right.
in January 18. So that was just like a couple months.
So your son dies 2017. You started MSW program literally months later.
Yes.
A program, anything in the helping profession is going to invoke emotion.
And
'Cause you're-
triggers.
Absolutely. Because some of your classes are going to trigger you.
Right. So a lot of times, it was like I was there, like I just showed up, but mentally I wasn't there a lot. But I just commended myself for just at least showing up.
Right. Yeah. So tell me about your son. If I asked you to paint a picture of your son to me, what would you include in that picture?
I would say he was funny, charismatic, really into himself. He loved family, and then, the only child syndrome,
Yeah.
and then they venture out to other people and look for that acceptance is what I would say.
Okay.
And he was just so funny and just like loving, and it was just always me and him.
Yeah. And so you said your only child. So
Yeah,
your son,
then,
it was your only child at that time.
yes.
Okay.
And no, my son was 7 months when he passed away.
Okay.
But I'm just saying for like 18 years, really 17 and a half years, he was the only
He was the
child.
only child.
Yeah, and he wasn't happy about like having a sibling at first.
Really?
No.
Okay. Okay.
So the last photos and memories that I have of him was the day before I lost him. I had actually posted a picture of him and my son. My son was holding the baby, and he vomited in his mouth. And I actually
Oh.
was able to capture that
the
moment.
right? Yeah.
And that was the last moment that I have.
Wow.
And that's when I saw him like getting used to the fact of being a
A big brother.
Yes.
Yeah. In a funny moment, right? That's a
Yes.
moment that sometimes you can see it coming.
Right.
He can't see it, but you're like, "Ooh, it's gonna go rough." But
Yes.
and so then he was taken shortly
Yes.
after.
The next day.
Do you feel like there's a part of you that's almost still there in that space of whether it was a call or however you got the notice? But
A lot.
yeah,
That alone time is what I was telling you that I don't like.
yeah,
That too much alone time.
right. Because it reminds you of that,
Yes.
of the
Yes.
call.
And then when I got the call, actually, I had taken Chance to the playground. So I left the playground. I went home. I had just took our clothes off. We was going to take a nap. And then I got the call. So when I got the call, it felt like I was stuck literally in a trance. Like I couldn't process
Right.
what I was just hearing. So it was like I didn't want to panic, but I can just remember moving in slow motion. And like getting my clothes back on. You know how some people would just be like, oh,
Right.
that wasn't me. It was
Right.
like, what is going on? And it was like, I got a whole baby right here. I got to get him dressed. I got to get like what happened? Like, don't tell me my son died, because of course, they don't tell you anything. They just say, oh, you need to get to the hospital or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. So even getting to that point and still being alone
Yeah.
with just, me and the
Absolutely.
baby. And
And you navigated this by yourself.
I navigated this alone.
Did you, in that moment, did you think that there was anyone that you could call?
It wasn't even really a thought, to be honest. But I think as I was driving, I called my best friend. And I was like, but I can remember even being like calm, like, girl, can you believe somebody just told me, Larry was shot and I'm on my way to the hospital? Like, I don't know what to think, how to feel. And I can remember driving up 83 and it just felt like I was the only one on the highway.
Yeah.
And then even pulling in the parking lot of the emergency room, and I saw two friends of his, and everybody just seemed still. Like it wasn't a lot of, it was a no emotion.
Right.
So I'm double parked. I get the baby out the car. I go in there. I'm trying to think, did I even take Chance with me? I can't even remember if I took the baby with me. I just know that we had just left the playground and got the car, and I'm driving. So I don't know if he was with me, but I don't know who would have had him if he wasn't with me.
Right.
That part is not clear.
Yeah.
But I just know, going in the hospital and, them saying, I couldn't go to the back yet. So I kind of sort of felt like a sense of relief, like, okay, God, like, everything must be okay.
Right.
So at that point, that's when I started making phone calls. Like I called my mother, I called Chance's dad, and my best friend must have like got on the phone and called other friends because I can remember just being in the hallway. And when I saw the double doors open, I saw the doctor like just walking towards me, and it just was like a flat face, like. And I just was looking at him, and he was looking at me, and I just was like, my son is okay, right? And he didn't say anything. So at that point, I knew that,
Yeah.
So I think I had like an out-of-body experience. I remember feeling, but more importantly, I felt so alone in that moment, right? So I remember just being outside, just praying. I don't even know like how I just started praying in that moment. But I think it was more like a scream of help and prayer in the same breath.
Yeah.
Right. So then I see some friends coming, but I'm still kind of just like, it felt like a dream, right? So I see them coming, and then everybody's just, like in those moments, you really don't know what to say.
Right,
you just kind of just show up, right? So then my girlfriend, Denitra, came, and I was like, can I please just see my son? Like, I felt like I needed that moment to be like, is this a real thing? Like, I don't want to have to go to a funeral home and see him. Like, I need to know, like, this really happened. So then my girlfriend, Denitra, was talking to the doctor, and he was like, they don't let anybody back. And I just was kind of quiet. And I don't know what she said to them or, like, how the conversation went, but obviously it went well, because they was like, well, you can't touch him if we allow you to come back, because, we have to do this and we have to do that. And I just remember crying, like, I promise that I won't. So by that time, my mom had came, and I just remember me, my mother, and Denitra walking down the hall, and it just felt very cold, right? So when we get back there, the guy just still instructed me, like I told you, you couldn't touch him, we have to keep him covered, his body covered up, but you can see him. So I just was standing there, and when they had pulled the cover back, it was like, he just had like tears, like in his eyes, like they was like tears rolling down his face. And I just remember just standing there, like knowing that I couldn't touch him. Like my mind was racing. It was like, should I just say to hell what they say and just, like touch him like this is my son? But it just was like something just in me was like stiff, like cold, didn't know what to say. And I just was looking like, wow, like this is like reality right now, which really wasn't. But in that moment, I needed that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so.
I thank you for sharing that. That's not easy,
And this is the first that I've really talked about it. Like, went back to that day.
Yeah, because it's hard, right? It's, and no one's going to understand that pain unless they've experienced that pain.
Yes.
Because that's a different kind of pain, right? And I'm a believer. The circle of life says parents aren't supposed to bury their children,
Right.
right? And that's hard.
Mm-hmm.
And that is most likely because you haven't been able to talk about it when you go home and you're in those thoughts. Having to process that is really dangerous when you're doing it by yourself. You know, you have to be with someone when you can process that because there is a release, right? You know, even and when you're talking, I think a part of what was happening is you are in shock. So what you're feeling like was disconnected and cold is your body and your brain protecting you, right? Our bodies and our brains have this unbelievable ability to protect us from some traumas. Some things that if we can remember every part of it, it would crush us.
Right.
And so our bodies oftentimes work really hard with our brains to block out certain memories. Our body is telling our brain, this is what she was feeling. And she doesn't really deserve to feel that again.
Right.
So let's block out parts of her memory, right? And we're going to block out parts of her memory so she doesn't have to feel that part again because she's already feeling enough.
Right.
Right? So some of what you may be searching for and trying to piece memories together may not come.
Okay.
And that's not because you're a horrible person or what. It literally sometimes is the way our body protects us from us.
Right.
Right? So some stuff that remains a mystery may really remain that as a protective factor for you.
Yeah.
Now let me ask you this, although I feel like I know the answer, so I'm going to give you a counseling response after I get this answer. What do you feel like you've been able to do to start your own healing?
I feel like mentally, like changing things and how I would do things or be afraid to do. Kind of more so like doing everything in fear. Like I listened to one of your segments and you were speaking on, you know, like facing your triggers and your trauma. So I've done that. And when I say I've done that, meaning I don't get like this panic attack when I'm on 83 anymore. I don't.
Because you were experiencing that.
Right.
Because your body was going back to that trauma.
Right.
Okay.
So I don't experience the riding past the hospital anymore because, you know, it's like on the main road.
Absolutely.
Not far, well, an area where my son was hanging, I can ride down Liberty Road now.
Yeah.
At first, I just would avoid it.
Yeah.
So it's just the little things that I have heard you say and mention that I just kind of took out your toolbox.
Yes.
Put it in
Let me be clear. Those aren't little things, though. Monique, those aren't little things. You have been able to ride down the highway. And think about one of the things you said to me a few minutes ago was, I felt like I was the only one on 83. Right? So you've been able to ride down 83 and I have a panic attack.
Yes.
You've been able to ride past the hospital. Right?
Yes.
You've been able to ride down parts of Liberty Road. Things
Yes.
that you have avoided for 5 years.
Yeah.
For 5. Don't discount that progress, that growth. That's not little. That's big. Because what that says is, and I remember saying this to you several months ago, your son needs you to let him go so he can rest.
Yes.
Because for 5 years, your son hasn't been able to rest. Right? And that's not, I literally mean he needed you to let him go. And no parent is ever going to forget their child.
Right.
But your son needs you to live.
Yes.
Right? Because for 5 years, you didn't live.
Yeah, that's true. Because
Right.
I'm really just starting to feel a sense of myself
Yeah.
again.
So now you can do 83.
Yes.
Right? So if your friends want to go to brunch, you can go to brunch. You can go down 83 and get there. You're not taking a long way and taking you an hour to get to brunch. You can get there in 30 minutes. Right?
Yes.
Now you can go by the hospital, and here's why that matters. We never know when life will happen, and you're a social worker.
Yes.
You never know when you're going to have to go somewhere professionally, right? And have to be professional, meaning you got to be on in that moment. And you can ride down Liberty Road, right? Those are major, major things to have accomplished.
Yeah, because that Liberty Road really used to me like a panic attack.
Yeah, that's major, right? And then today, you were able to sit in here and talk about what that day was like for you. So what that means is, for the first time in 5 years, you started to live.
Yes.
You should be proud of yourself.
Well, thank you.
You really should. You should really, really be proud of yourself, because that's not easy. That's not been easy for you.
Right.
It really hasn't. I would assume that that's probably not easy for any parent.
Right.
Right. I don't think, I don't think for any parent you're able to, because that's just not how the cards were supposed to be dealt in life. Right. So let me ask you, what are you doing to facilitate this healing? Because this is some growth, Monique. Seriously. Okay. This is significant. This is growth. So what have you been doing to facilitate some of this healing?
You mean it for my own self or just in general?
For your own self.
Well, I started reading more, which I absolutely hate doing, because I feel like I'm always feeling like just get to the point. Even with conversating with people, sometimes like in my head I'd be like, just hurry up and get to the point. I'm supposed to, saying this and saying that. So I find myself reading more, finishing tasks, and just working on myself, to be honest.
Allowing yourself to cry.
Yes.
Allowing yourself to feel, because you've been able to do that in this space. And I get the feeling that that's not always something you've allowed yourself to do.
No.
And as Black women especially, we have conditioned ourselves to not feel, because we got to take care of everybody else.
Exactly.
Right? It's not that we don't have feelings. Because
Right.
some people will say we're too emotional. Right?
Right.
But we have conditioned ourselves to not feel, because everyone else has to come first.
Yes.
So when we release, we just need a safe space to do it.
And then a part of not really being able to like tap into and deal is partly of like running from the feeling, and then having a 5-year-old and having to be present for him.
Absolutely.
So a lot of times, when I feel like I need or want to release, I'm hiding it from him.
Yep.
So now if he sees me crying, he'll just be like, "You missing Larry?" Or "You miss Larry?" And I'll be like, "Yeah, actually I do."
Good
So
for
at
you.
first I would be like, "No," when he'd be like, "Yes, you do,"
Yeah.
Because a lot of times if he did catch me crying, because sometimes I might just take a bath and, cut all the lights out in the house, take a bath and just light a candle, and then he'll come in and I'd be like, "Chance, this is my me time. Like, let me have my me time." Then he'd be like, "Well, why are you crying?" So, sometimes I just be like, "Oh, I'm just a little, sad because I miss Larry." And then he'd be like, "I miss Larry too." And then I just kind of be like, we both miss Larry. You know?
Let me tell you something. You'll see this when you watch this series. All 4 women who've sat right there are mothers, right? All 4 women have said or have alluded to almost needing to put their own healing to the side first, especially for children, right? Something that you said just now is something that another mother is working to get towards, which is, when I'm not okay, telling my kid that I'm not okay.
Oh, wow.
And so I tell you that because even though you feel like I'm so new in this healing space, right?
Yes.
And accepting stuff and facing this reality,
Yes.
that doesn't mean that you're not advanced in other areas. Because your 5-year-old now has the emotional intelligence to look at you and say, "You miss Larry? I miss Larry too."
Right.
Right? And so that's the cue to, I need to give my mommy some time.
Yes.
Mommy needs a little bit of time, right? Because mommy misses my brother.
Yes.
And so I need to give my mommy that space.
Yes.
And he's 5.
Yes.
Right? Which means you've been able to set that kind of norm in your home that the lights are, this mommy just needs her time right now. Right?
Yes.
So now the part for you becomes, now that Chance gets that at 5, you've got to be able to make sure that other people in your life get that too, who are older than 5.
Yes.
Which will involve you having to communicate to them when you're not okay.
I know, Dr. Tosh, but it just seems like you talking and like saying the same thing, like how you feel, like, you know, it's like, oh, you still feeling like this? Oh, you still saying that? That's how I get to like feeling, so I don't express anymore.
You feel like you still feel like this, or people are saying to you?
I feel like people
will think that
because, you know, I have days, and that's how I know that, like, when I'm wearing it, because I've noticed my own patterns and behaviors, and I don't like it because I can remember for such a very long time, like probably really like that first year, I wasn't present a lot at all. Like, I would be physical, but really I'm not present.
Right.
So I can just remember a lot of days that I would drop Chance at daycare, and I would come home, and obviously I must have sobbed on a couch in one space all those hours, because then when I look up, it's time for me to get Chance, and it's like, oh my God, I didn't stay here for 8 hours. Didn't eat, probably drank a little water, just like in one spot of the couch for months, right? So because now that I recognize that about myself, then, so now it scares me to get back to that space when I feel like I work so hard to be on time now. Like, I hate being late. So a lot of things I have changed about myself that I may have done then that I don't like to do now.
Right.
So when I find myself in those situations, I'll be like, Lord, I don't want to be sad. I don't want this to be like a depressed day, because that's how I get to feeling when I'm waking up late. Or I don't want to do anything. I don't want to be bothered. You know, it's like I'm a people person, that also I can be an introvert. And I just found out about myself. And I just also found out that I'm like very moody.
Absolutely.
So it's like I'm recognizing things about myself that I didn't notice. Like, is it something that I have adopted since then, or was I always this way? But now, needless to say, like, I'm recognizing it.
And all of that's okay, right? So it sounds like in that moment, no matter how long it lasted, you had a lot of PTSD, a lot of trauma that impacted you, and a lot of depression that arguably makes sense.
Yeah.
So now what we do to avoid going back to that space is, when you feel that, reach out to your support system, continue to pick up those psychoeducational tools and put them in your toolbox, and talk to a counselor. Right?
That's the last thing that I would like to do is counseling. And not that I'm afraid of counseling. I think more so like I'm afraid to be in the moment and like revisit all the thoughts, all the feelings, and all the emotions, and then whatever else is on my mind.
Right.
That I have to deal with.
Absolutely. Because we've been able to block that out.
Yes.
We do a really good job of putting everything else on the back burner to take care of everyone else. But we often succumb to that.
Yes.
So it gets so bad that it overwhelms us, right?
Yes.
And so remember, you don't have to put everything on the front the first day. It's going to be step work, where you work through it step by step by step. And I'm hoping that someone who watches this does what you've done, which is, let me pull from this what I need, so I'm coming in a healthier space already, right? So you don't have to unload everything at one time in a counseling session. It could be steps, right? Where you say, I'm not in a space today to talk about how I lost my son in that day. I'm not there for that. I am here to talk about, you know what? Why can't I tell my friends and my support system when it's not a good day for me?
Right.
That might be what you want to talk about in counseling.
Right.
That's okay. Because you control that. You are the expert on you. I can tell you what I think, but ultimately you are the expert on who you are and what you want to talk about. right?
Yes.
And one of the things that you're doing as a social worker is you work to help heal those communities.
Right.
And so we can't be what we call wounded healers, right? Which is when we are so wounded that our wounds will seep over into all that we're helping. Right? And it happens. It's very easy to happen. And I've been there. I've been in a space where I would go to work, I would come home, and I can't tell you what happened from 3:30 until the next day. I can't recall that, right?
Wow.
For months. And so as a part of that, because counselors need their own counseling,
Right.
we had to talk about what am I going to do different to stop this?
Yes.
Because at some point in time, it was a familiar feeling for me.
Yes.
And so we had to work to be very intentional with, okay, so maybe you're going to go for a walk after work this time. Or why don't you ask a friend if y'all can go get dinner? You know, because they don't know. Because, you know, when you're the helping professional.
And I'm always the helper in my friends.
And your friends,
I'm the
your
go-to.
family, etc. It's very easy for you to hide when you need help. Because when people call you, they instinctively talk about them.
Yes.
And here's the problem with that. It doesn't allow you to speak up for you. So you hide behind being the helper, but I'm saying out of personal experience, that's dangerous. And it's dangerous because then no one sees you.
Right.
And when no one sees you, you go a long time without being heard. We go a long time without being heard. We go back to 8 hours on that sofa sobbing, and we can't recall what happened in that day.
Right.
So my challenge for you is to build off that toolbox and become very comfortable with that first counseling session. I'm not saying do 12 weeks. I'm saying one session.
Okay.
Just start with one. Remember, this is what you're going to tell the clients that you work with.
Yes.
Right? You start with one. Start with one session.
Right.
And I guarantee it's going to bring some anxiety. It's going to bring some fear. We know that. Those are guarantees. But what I also guarantee is that it's going to reaffirm for you that you deserve to heal.
Yes.
You deserve to live. You deserve to be healthy.
Yes.
I told you that before. Your son wants you to live. You got to let him go so he can rest. Right? Because think about it. For 5 years, look at how much work he's had to do spiritually to protect you and keep you safe. For 5 years, he's had to be the big brother to Chance because mommy had to get mommy together.
Yes.
A brother who he knew for 7 months. Right? When you talk about, I just would go pick up Chance, but then the rest of the day, right? That's why Chance can say, I miss Larry too. Think about that. He doesn't have your memories that you're giving Chance are what he misses about his brother.
Yes.
But look at how even in all of your grief, he's able to say, you miss Larry? I miss Larry.
Right.
So on a spiritual level, Larry's been working, right?
Yes.
To make sure this house is okay. So now he's got to rest for a little while. Doesn't mean he's not going to visit, but he's just got to rest, right?
Right.
And you've got to live. So in a few months, I want us to circle back.
Okay.
And I want to hear about how you're living.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
You're healing. You can tell. And this is going to sound crazy. This is my first time meeting you in person.
Yes.
But I already know that you're healing.
Oh.
Because the person who talked on social media has a different language today.
Oh, wow.
I can see it.
Okay.
You had a very, and I can say this to you professionally, you had a very hopeless tone on social media months ago. Hopeless. Like I took a screenshot, I'm not joking, of who you were, because I said I want to know she's okay. That's the truth, right?
Yes.
The person who's talking to me now is doing work.
Well, I listened to enough of your lives.
I appreciate that, right? I can see it. I can see the work that you're doing. And so now we're going to continue to heal, right? And then we're going to take a part of that healing and we're going to turn it into living.
Yes.
Because you deserve that.
Yes, I do.
right? You got to remind yourself that I deserve to live. Like God literally put me here on earth to live. He did not create a life of pain for us.
Right.
Yes, we experience pain, and you have experienced your share of pain, of loss.
Yes.
You have, right? From grandmother, aunt, etc. You've experienced those things.
Yes.
You deserve to live. And you
do.
deserve to live in happiness.
Yes.
You deserve to walk around that house where you can take that bath and light those candles, right? But go outside of the house too.
Right.
So I want to hear that in a couple months.
Okay.
Right? Now I'm going
Yes.
to ask you this to end. And I think this is important because I know moms who are grieving watch these videos.
Okay.
What do you want a grieving mother to know?
I want a grieving mom to know that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to not be okay. Because I'm just learning that it's okay to not be okay.
Absolutely. And I think that's some of the most authentic messages that they need to hear.
Yes.
So I thank you for talking with me. How you feeling?
I feel amazing.
Good. Okay. You see what I'm saying? This is not the same person, Monique. This is okay. Listen. Sometimes, as the counselor, you need a moment. Like words of affirmation is literally my love language, and you have affirmed that in me. If ever we have days where we're like, wow, is it okay? Is it working? Is it working? You are reminding me of that. And I'm excited to check back in with you and see how this journey goes.
Me too.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Hey everyone. Thank you so much for joining for this Operation Heal series of Black Women's Mind. I hope this series has resonated with you the same way it's resonated with me. Don't forget, you can look at all of our Operation Heal series episodes at www.wileyfh.com/operation-heal, or like, follow, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/wileyfuneralhomes. I look forward to seeing you soon, and happy healing.